Hi, my name is Serena Arora. I am an Ayurvedic Health Practitioner and certified yoga therapist, and this is a series of talks that brings Ayurvedic practices to promote optimal health and sustainable healing. And I really look forward to sharing them with you. So this section of the day, or this part and portion, will vary, but for the first 2 days, it's going to be Ayurveda. This will be from 12:45 to approximately, I'll let you go around 3, something like that. And afterwards, we'll be together and then we'll be again tomorrow for that amount of time. And then after that, we'll be together for shorter snippets, so 30-minute snippets. And we'll start I'll build the foundation today and tomorrow. And then next day, we'll start to connect some of the dots. And I'll start to connect the dots between Ayurveda, the yoga, the human potential, your practices that you're doing on the mat, off the mat, and we'll start to see, I hope, and my goal is that you'll be able to sort of create this puzzle, take all the puzzle pieces and start to create your own map, your own puzzle or your own map, and see where you are in this. So the idea is to get to know yourself. And you can get to know yourself through all these different lenses. And this is a great way this is Ayurveda, I found, has been one of the greatest tools to get to know not only myself, but to understand others in which I'm in relationship. So it's very interesting how I start to navigate my relationships with, oh, well, okay, it's just his pitta, or, oh, it's just her Vata, and kind of like your lunch conversation I was listening to earlier. And so it's exactly that. It's like how it's just their pitta, they're over pitta. You know, Kevin would literally, he was so irritable, like he was so irritable last few weeks and just irritated. And I was like, whoa, your pitta's high, you know, and I could see that. And it was just like, okay, cool down, start to cool down. Can you cool down? And it's a way of noticing things before they're really, really obvious. It's a real preventative medicine. It's a really preventative perspective. And some people even match their mates with Ayurveda. So there's a website called whatsyourdoshababy.com. And so you could find your match potentially just through the science of life, okay? So that is what Ayurveda is, the science of life. So welcome to your healing journey. Did you see this sign yesterday? Okay. So with that, Ayurveda. Veda means the science of, the ology, so in Latin terms, the study of, or the ology of Ayur. Ayur means, does anyone know? I just said it. Life. No big deal, just the science of life, you know? Kind of broad. And I guess, you know, we can I can make fun of it as like whatsyourdoshababy.com, and yes, you can find your match potentially, and maybe there's some balance in there. And this 5,000-year-old science, it's a 5,000-year-old science from India, has helped me cure myself from an autoimmune disorder. And it was very unintentional. I really, really didn't believe that I even had an autoimmune disorder, because I was a yoga teacher, I was a fitness instructor, I was a Ayurvedic health practitioner. I've been studying this for decades, and I was like, well, that's impossible. I can't have an autoimmune disorder. But I did. And I was able to use Ayurveda to not only prevent it from getting worse, but I reversed it. And I am here to give you the basics so that you can use it in your own life to maybe possibly heal yourself, even if it's in the smallest way to big ways like that I did. Okay? What my experience of this is, in a 200-hour yoga teacher training, which I have taken many myself, many 200 hours, many 300 hours, many 500 hours, many 800-hour teacher trainings in my lifetime. And in a 200-hour teacher training, the chances of you taking Ayurveda and using it and applying it in your yoga classes is very slim, in my experience. You get like a little snippet. Here it is. These are the doshas. This is the da-da. This is what, don't you get it? Now take it and run. And most of the time, students are left like, what was that again? How does that work? I just want to teach a yoga class. I'm just trying to cue the poses. And so our goal of making Ayurveda one of the pillars of this school is to infuse it in this way. It's the study of life. It's in all of these realms. It's not only these little things that you need to apply. It's where is the Ayurveda in breath work, in the Kriya that you did this morning? Where is the Ayurveda in the Tadasana pose that we just had? That we just explored this morning? Where is the Ayurveda in the food that you just ate for lunch? Where is the Ayurveda in the conversation that we're going to have this evening? Where is the Ayurveda in the bathroom tomorrow morning? Okay? And that is where I and Kevin both, where you're living your yoga. You do not study Ayurveda. You are Ayurveda. Okay? So you are life. You are life. And so in everything that you do, eat, breathe, don't eat, don't breathe, in all your relationships with yourself, all the things that you think, all the words that you say or don't say to yourself, your experience with the external environment, that is Ayurveda. Okay, so you can start to see it in every little way. I love being in the airport. I mean, I travel a lot. I've traveled a lot. And being in the airport is like, I just put on my Ayurveda classes and I'm just like, wow. And I just study the people in the airport. It's like awesome. And you just get to be like, okay, she's a Vata Pitta, and then okay, he's a Pitta Kapha, whatever, and like, and you can really start to see things, and I'm going to tell you a little story later on about what I see and where I can offer support. People come to me and they're like, hey, I've got this thing. I'm a Ayurvedic Health Practitioner, which is one of the highest qualifications outside of India. So in India, you take an undergrad and then of whatever, and then it's a graduate Ayurveda is a graduate program called BAMS, Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery, BAMS. And it's a 5-year program outside after your. It's an after-degree program, a 5-year after-degree program, and that is, so if you have an Ayurvedic health practitioner, or they can call themselves doctors of Ayurveda. If they're in the West, they can call themselves a doctor of Ayurveda. Then that's the highest, that they've studied it in great, it's even longer study than MDs in India. So MDs is like a 4-year program, like after, and BAMS is a 5. Okay, but outside of India, Ayurvedic Health Practitioner is a 2-year program. And this is where I studied. I studied with Dr. Lad in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was amazing. And there's a lot, after that, being a practitioner and having a lot of clients come to me, I'm able to really see these patterns that we live in the Western world, and why do we have these patterns? Some are common, some aren't. But the common denominators, the ones that are very common, I really believe have to do with societal structure, how we live our life, lifestyle. If it's the science of life and our lifestyle is a certain way, we will mirror that life, our life. We mirror our life. And the common factors and the common things imbalances that I see in people are because of very common practices that we have in the West. And a lot has to do with diet as well, but diet and lifestyle. So I really stand by what I said earlier. What is medicine for one person can be poison for another. Okay? What is medicine for one person can be poison for another. So I will give you an overall view of what Ayurveda is and some very common practices across the board that I encourage you to do or not do that can be beneficial for a general population. But then the very most important answer is always, it depends. Okay? So you'll have a question for me, and the answer will be, it depends. Because it may depend on it depends on many other things. Okay? What is medicine for one person can be poison for another. All right. That's said. Life. If we look at life here, outside of us, especially in Costa Rica, I think it's beautiful when being around this close to nature because it's so clear, it's so in your face. When you live in maybe places that are a little bit less close to natural rhythms of life, maybe a little more contrived, a little more concrete jungle, shall we say, that sensitivity and that connection is lost and can be lost. And it takes a little bit longer to get back into it and to understand it. But when you do get back in touch with it, when you do connect with it again, it's innate. It's, oh yeah, there's something inside of you that remembers it. When I was taking one of my 500-hour yoga therapy trainings, there was an Ayurvedic doctor from India, and he was talking to us about Ayurveda. And I remember almost everyone in that class was like, they didn't understand him. They said, I don't understand him. His accent's too thick. They weren't interested in it. And I remember sitting there for hours and just be like, I was taking everything. And of course, I understood the accent. It was very familiar to me. But not only was that familiar to me, but the content was so familiar to me. I was like, oh my goodness, that's why my dad gave me this food when it was cold outside, or when I had an ear infection, or when this is why I used, this spice instead of this spice, in summer versus winter. And it was such an interesting eye-opener for me because it was in me, I had lived it, and it was very innate, but all these innate feelings and these visceral reminders of they all kept coming up. And so I imagine it will be the same for you. I've seen it time and time again where people are like, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. And it starts to answer questions. And it's also, oh, that's why I'm the way I am, but it's also why my partner's the way they are, my kids the way they are, my father's the way they are, it's like you start to see other people in different ways. And acceptance is it's freedom. It's freedom. And so it's really allowing yourself to really give yourself the why behind the thing that you've always wondered. And so nature plays a huge role in this. And if we were to look at nature now, here, Ayurveda goes by 5 particular elements of nature. Do you know what those are? Who can tell me what the 5 elements of nature, according to Ayurveda, are?
Air.
Okay, great. We'll start with that. Thanks.
Fire.
Great. I used to be a teacher, so I'm going to be all color coordinated here. Okay, great. Next. Air, fire, water. Thank you, Asya. Water. Earth. We're missing one. Good. Yes, both of those. The same. Ether or space. Great. Beautiful. And so, as we look at nature, and well, I guess I should say, as the Vedas, the rishis, the wise people that sat under banyan trees in India and listened and watched and observed nature, they came to understand these 5 elements. And Ayurveda started around the same time as yoga. So they're sister sciences, over 5,000 years old. And so when Ayurveda started, yoga had already, the Vedic scriptures, the Upanishads, they all started like around the same time. And so as the yogis were staring and watching animals do their stretches and their movements, and there were cobras, and there were tigers, and there were, what are some other? Frogs and, yeah, okay, good. There were definitely dogs in India, okay. And some downward facing dogs, yeah. That is downward facing dog, no. Okay, and so as the yogis were studying yoga, the Ayurvedic rishis, they were sitting under these trees and they were watching and studying the nature. And they was like, okay, this is so interesting. This is what happens in this season to this tree. This changes, they produce this seed or this flower, the bird comes, the seed falls, it drops, whatever the bird comes, ingests, digests, eliminates, eliminates that seed, plants it, poops it over there, that begins again, and how nature has this cycle in and its seasons. And when these two things come together, it creates something amazing, something that creates a certain quality. And so here we have qualities and natural phenomenons, I guess you can say, that are created by, they've discovered, 5 elements. And so what happens when space and air come together? Space and air. So a bunch of, all this air comes in and fills the space. What do you get? Like a natural phenomenon. Wind, good. And movement too. So wind. And so what is the force of wind? Or what is the nature of wind? What is the function of wind? To move. Yeah. So the function is movement. It needs to move that seed that comes, and it needs to move it over there through wind. Okay, good. What does wind have? The part that the rishis decided was more interesting was the outside world mirrors the inside world. So what is the macrocosm is the microcosm, and that is what we are reflecting. So if we were just to think of wind is movement here. It takes the seeds, it's tornadoes, it can be, that's excess, wind in excess. But generally just wind that comes in. It also dries out the leaves, and you think about in the dry season, it's going to dry everything up and start to remove some of the water, the moisture. It will start to crunch the leaves when in fall and autumn, and it'll let them die eventually so that something can be born again, right? Renewed. And so in your body, what does that look like? What is wind energy we use it for? Because we need it. Okay, prana can be also, what's the word for prana? How do we see prana in our body? How do we see it in our body? Like, how does it show up? How does prana show up in our body? How do we know it's there? It's like breath. Yeah, good. So wind in our body looks like breath. What else?
flow, lymph.
Okay, that's good. But that's different because it's a substance. So think just, it makes the lymph move. You're right. It makes the circulation happen. You're right. Yes, circulation. So moving blood, moving lymph, but not actually the lymph or not actually the blood, but the movement of it. Yes. Energy. Okay, good. Nervous system, great. It's also, think wind. When do you have wind? Digestion. Yeah? What do you do? What do you do? We can say it because we're going to start talking very intimately about stuff, so might as well just start now. The words? Come on. Someone say it. Someone say it.
Farting.
Okay. So farting, burping.
Gas.
Yeah, gas. Yeah, gas and bloating and air and air. You have air. Also, voice, speaking. You're talking. Okay, good. It also is air in your organs. So we have space. We need space in our organs, yes? We have to have space in our organs for them to function properly. Otherwise, they'd be just dense masses of tissue. We need space in our stomach. We need space in our lungs. We need space in our colon. We need space in our kidneys. We need space. So the wind energy or this air energy is going to make all of this happen and give us the space that we need in order to function like a human being. Amazing. Okay, good. So let's pull these two together, fire and water. What does fire and water make in nature? Close, just fire and water, because fire and wood would make smoke, or yeah, I guess water can make smoke.
Heat.
But initially, steam. Yeah, so steam and then smoke. Good. Okay, steam. And what's steam responsible for? It also is energy. Good. An energy that is like transformation. Good. So it can transform your raw broccoli into a cooked broccoli. It can transform your what? Food, like raw food, into usable material, right? So it can bring in, it can be acids that come out in like saliva. It's your steam energy. It's like, okay, it's gonna start to cook and transform the food that you put in your mouth, and then the stomach acids are going to come out, and they're going to transform the food, and then maybe you work out a lot, and so you're at the gym, and what's happening? You're letting off steam, literally, sweat, yes. So you're letting off your steam. So you're creating steam and you're transforming your body. You're burning fat and you're creating muscle. You're literally transforming your tissues. And so, good, all of that. So, all of that. So, acids, saliva, this is also blood, and basically metabolism. Okay. If we were to pull these two together, water and earth now, what do we have? Water and earth. Growth? Growing. Yes? What do you grow nature with? Good. So we're talking about in nature, you have water and earth. What are you creating? Soil. Yep. Well, soil is earth. And then you put water on the earth?
Mud.
Mud. Nice. Good. Did you say life, Julia? Yeah, definitely. There's definitely, like, it gives life. There's minerals in it. It's like, it's life-giving. Good. Mud. What is the function of mud? If you were just to think mud, what does mud do? So in nature.
Protecting from overheating.
Very good. It's protection. Good, Lisa. And,
Fertilize.
sorry?
Fertilize.
Fertility, yeah, good. I like that. Fertilizing, nourishing, yeah. Nourishing, protecting, and lubricating. And pulls, keeps us together. Cohesiveness. So it's for cohesion. Without it, we'd be just this liquid, airy mess, right? We wouldn't actually have muscles and fascia and bones, and we wouldn't be stuck together. There wouldn't be pieces of us that were cohesive and that we could actually move as one piece, in one piece. And so cohesion is very, very key. Good. So this is actually lymph. It's the tissues, our tissues. It's our organs. It's all the dense stuff. It's the synovial fluid, like the fluid between our joints, our cerebral spinal fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, CSF. And then, what else? So our lymph system, so it's our immunity. It's all the things that protect us. Okay, good, and keep us together. Excellent. So now, if we were to, I'll just do it in a different color. If we were to give these Sanskrit names, then we could, or Ayurvedic names, they've decided, the rishis have decided that these three things are all we need that make us up. This is what makes us up. And we are made up of all of the, nature is made up of these three things, these three categories. We are made up of these three categories, and each of us have all three, but in different quantities and in different ways. Okay? Some are similar, but some are different. Different quantities. And we've decided that wind energy is called, yep, Bianca's chomping at the bit to say it, okay? Steam energy, you guys know it. P-I-T-T-A, Pitta. And the cohesion, the lubricating, the protection, Kapha. So some people say fa, like pH makes fa, or some people say pa, because in fact it really actually is pH pa. So kapha or kapha. So pitta, vata. All right, so vata, pitta, kapha. They've simplified it in the Western world to call this your doshas. And we are made up of a doshic constitution. And so some of us are predominantly vata, for example. And so those of us who are predominantly air and space could be a combination of vata pitta or vata kapha. Those of us who are predominantly fire, predominantly pitta, fire and water, we are pitta first, and we are a combination of all three. We could be pitta vata or pitta kapha, or just pitta. But it's pretty rare that you're just one. Those of us who are predominantly kapha, I say fa. So those of us who are predominantly kapha are combination of kapha vata or kapha pitta. So you can be all of these combinations. You can be vata pitta, pitta vata, vata kapha, kapha vata, pitta kapha, kapha pitta, vata pitta kapha. So you can be tridoshic. And it's common sometimes. It's more common now that I've been doing this and I've been having seeing lots of clients. It's more common than I thought of people being tridoshic, all three equally. It's when those people are in balance, wow, they're amazing. They're very well-rounded. You may know some, and they're really nice to be around. When those people are out of balance, watch out. And it may be you. You're like, wow, when I'm out of balance, I'm so out of balance. When I'm in balance, I'm so imbalanced. And so if that's you, if you run the extremes, that you could be you, that you're all three. And so today, and we're going to talk predominantly about the generally Ayurveda within these doshas, and then tomorrow we'll go specific into each dosha. Today we'll do the general and vata. Tomorrow we'll do the pittas and kaphas. Pittas have to wait. I know you don't like waiting. So we'll just talk about what people might experience to know what they are. It's like now you're like, what am I? What am I? I want you to really not put too much weight into that. Don't label yourself. Don't make that mistake of oh, I'm a this. For decades, I thought I was a Pitta Vata. Decades. My whole life. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Pitta Vata. I went to India. I'm a Pitta Vata, thinking I'm a Pitta Vata. And I'm like strong. I go into like all these like studies. And then I ended up like doing Panchakarma, which is like the cleansing. And the doctor's like, so you think you're a Pitta Vata? And I'm like, oh yeah, like, I like easily get muscle because like, I'm this and that. I have all these excuses of why. He's like, no, you are Vata Pitta. And I was like, really? And it changed it's almost like I had to like let go of that identity that I had. So I really caution you, like, don't attach yourself to a label or what you think that you are, okay? And I'm definitely Vata Pitta. Okay. We also have stages of our life that can dictate how much of one of these is more predominant. So stages of life, we actually start babies. If you think of babies, well, we won't get into it. But there's a babies and like up till about puberty, that's a section. And then puberty to most of our adulthood, like to our probably mid-60s or so. That's one section, that's another stage of our life. And then mid-60s onwards is another stage of our life. And so we can also play that. That can also play a role in how it manifests inside our bodies or our minds, and our minds. The time of day. And also your imbalance. So if your lifestyle is very one of these three doshas, you may present that way. So you may become your imbalance, and you may think you are that, and that's where it depends, right? So it gets very complicated. People will take a test online, they're like a dosha test, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm this. But they took it with their imbalances in mind. And then they think they're that, and then they come see me and I'm like, no, like I'm the doctor, no, you're not. You think you're this? You're not. And so I've had that experience where I was like, no, there's no kapha in you at all. You're just kapha imbalanced, let's say, for example. You're a Vata Pitta with a kapha imbalance. And that's when it can get a little bit complicated and a little bit interesting, okay? So for now, and for our purposes, I just want you to understand the principles behind this, okay? So the main principles of Ayurveda, there are three. Everybody got this? Okay, we're going to come back to this. The main principles of Ayurveda, there are three. They're in your book, but let's just kind of, we could stay off our book for right now. First principle is really simple. Like increases like. So whatever you are, if you keep doing the same things, eating the same things, being the same way, living the same way as you are, predominantly your dosha, that will increase. Okay, so if you're predominantly wind energy and you're moving a lot and you're dry and you're airy and spacey, and around you is airy and spacey, and you live in a really dry climate and a really windy weather climate and dry, your wind energy, your vata, is going up instantly. And like increases like. So if you are vata and you live in a really vata place, you have to really watch your vata. Like increases like. If you are earth energy, and so you're really dense and cohesive and connected and heavy, that's who you are, then living in a really windy area might be okay for you. It might work for you. You might feel okay. You might feel balanced. It might even lift you up. It might even give you some pep in your step. Okay? So that brings me to the second principle, which is the opposites often bring balance. And not always, but often. Okay? Often bring balance. So if the opposites often bring balance, that's what I'm saying, is that whatever you are, if you understand you are, so let's say you're fire energy. Okay, your pitta energy. So you have this fire and this water and you're hot and you are steamy and you're hot-blooded and you live in Arizona and it's hot, or okay, Vegas is a great example. Well, is it hot, but it's dry?
It's hot and dry.
Yeah, that's different. So hot and, okay, somewhere like Costa Rica, let's say. Okay, so it's hot, it's humid, it's it's all of that. It's fire and water. And if you are fire and water, this place, your pitta's high. Okay? But if you're a vata, pitta, and you're air and space, and then you feel all this warmth and this, so you're dry, you're cold, you're airy, you're spacey, and then all of a sudden you get warmth and wet, it's a good thing. It can bring you some balance. That's why this weather works for me, because I'm vata, pitta. When I'm too pitta, that I can feel that. But for pitta people, it's really hard. It's very hard for them. They get really, so I'm speaking Kevin language, pitta kapha, and that's when it's hot, it's hot. He has to really use his kapha and his practices to just cool himself off. You think about Latin America, you think about these people, and they're like, oh, they're hot-blooded. There's a hot-blooded. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily for Costa Ricans, they're pretty chill. But maybe they're just tired. Maybe they're just like, oh, the sun makes you too hot. But if you think of some other Latin countries, like hot-blooded, spicy, it's true. Because their environment has created that. Even their food has created that. Their food, their environment, it's like increases like. And so you become your environment. You become your environment. Third principle is it in your book? Can you read it? No? Okay. The more closely you mirror the natural rhythm of life, of nature, natural rhythm of life, yeah, the less dis-ease will occur. And I say dis-ease. So not being at ease. So the more closely you mirror the natural rhythm of life, less disease will occur. So if you start to mirror the natural circadian rhythms of nature, you will start to feel more at ease. And this is definitely true here in this country. So we're near the equator. The sun rises and the sun sets at the same time every day, all year long. And so it's very there's a rhythm. The animals wake up at the same time, right at dawn. Right, you can hear the monkeys howling right before the sun rises, just before. So okay, they know it's time. When the sun sets at like 6 o'clock, 5:45 sometimes, and the animals are going to sleep. And so then this is their natural rhythm. And so when you start to mirror those natural rhythms of life, you too will be more at ease. This is how nature is intended. There's a harmony in it. What happens is we change the clocks, and we are on a schedule, and we set alarms, and we stay up late, and we are on our computers, and we are very far. We pull ourselves further and further away from natural circadian rhythms. We've created our own rhythm, and that may or may not be natural. It may not. Maybe you go to bed at 1 a.m. You get up at 10 a.m. and that's off. That's a skewed circadian rhythm, and that creates more dis-ease, disharmony in the body. And if you start to change and shift this, you will notice that your body will start to create its own rhythm and its own habit. It will start to say, this is what I remember. This is what I like. This is what I know. And when your body starts to be more take in what's familiar to it and what's natural, that rhythm becomes easeful and smooth, and you will be free from any of that conflict. Okay. Going to the bathroom at the same time every day is a natural circadian rhythm. The animals do that. They wake up, they eliminate. I mean, if those of you have pets, right? Your dog wakes up, you have to go outside. It's natural. And some people are like, wow, I wish I could do that. Because some people don't. But some people who do, great, then this is a way, Ayurveda is a way for you to sustain it. And if you don't, Ayurveda is a way for you to get that on track. It's very important to eliminate every day. Our sequence is, our yoga and our whole aims, our 4 aims are that: ingest, digest, assimilate, eliminate. What do all beings do? That. And if we're doing that on a daily, consistent basis, we are Swastha. We are at optimal health and wellness. But if we are not doing that every day, that is your boom, that is your alarm clock. Oh, that's your red flag. Oh, something needs to change. What did I not do? What did I not eat? What did I not do? What did I do? What did I do? Or what did I not do? What did I eat or what did I not eat? And you start to understand on a daily basis versus 3 months down the road where you're like, oh, I have colitis, or I have heartburn, or I have, these things that start to come up in your body. When I was in India, the first time when I was told to leave because to go be a dentist, it was like, this is the second time I went. So I went back again, about 3 years after that. And my auntie, my eldest auntie, so she was 96 at the time. So this was quite a few years ago already, almost 10 years ago. And so she's passed now. She was sitting with me, and she knew she was 96, and she sat there, and she was sitting on the bed like this, like you're 96. She's sitting like this, and she takes my hand, and I don't speak Hindi and Punjabi, so I was like, I didn't understand what she was saying, so she's just stroking my hand and talking to me. She did have glasses, but she had all her own teeth, she had all her own hair, she had, her skin was still beautiful, and she's stroking my head. She still could, walk, talk, eat, and all of these things, very flexible. And she's stroking me. She knew exactly who I was, which one of her brother's daughter I was, that I was from Canada, so she knew everything. about me. So she still had all her faculties. And the couple weeks later, her family called me and they said, I know you're, or maybe a month later, because I was there for 3 months. And I had gone to study Ayurveda. And they called me. The family called me and they're like, we need your help. We know you're studying Ayurveda. This is a problem. And we called her Buaji. Buaji is dying. And I just like, sat up out of bed. And I was like, what do you mean? What are you saying to me? And they're like, okay, don't worry, but just we need your help. And I was like, okay, what do you mean she's dying? They said, well, she did not go to the bathroom yesterday. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, she did not have a bowel movement yesterday. And I go, well, for how long? And they're like, yesterday. Like, what don't you understand? I was like, okay, so she hasn't had a bowel movement in 1 day? And they're like, yes, she must be dying. And I was like, yep. That means everyone in North America must be dying. It is so true that the Ayurvedic definition of constipation is 24 hours. If you do not go to the bath, the Ayurvedic definition of constipation is 1 time a day. The allopathic definition of constipation is 5 to 7 days. So if you haven't gone in 5 to 7 days, that you are constipated. And so you could take something for it. 5 to 7 days, a week. So 1 day or 1 time a day versus a week. And so this is it was so stark for me. I was like, okay, when you go to the bathroom and you look in that toilet, that is your porcelain window. That is your report card. That is your daily report card of your health. How do you look? What's happening on the inside? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like coming out? All of these things are going to give you your health report card. Okay, I call that your daily report card in your porcelain window. And then for women, your monthly report card is your menstrual cycle. And if you are not menstruating, if you're stopping your menstruation from happening, you are missing valuable information. And if your menstrual cycle isn't not happening every month, then that's a sign. Something is missing. Something needs to change and shift. Okay? Of course, unless you've gone through menopause and then that shift has occurred. And we'll talk more about that in the weeks to come, in the days to come. Okay. So looking at your report cards and just checking, okay. I mean, there are Ayurvedic doctors that taste your poop, that smell there's professional fart smellers. There's they smell your fart and they decide what your state of health is. They're like, oh, this is something, or this is if it's sweet, or if it's sour, or if it smells pungent, or if it smells bitter, all of those things, and they can tell. Those are the tastes, and those are the smells that they can say what organ is being affected and what needs to happen. So we take food in, but if we're just allowing it to sit here, it's going to ferment. It's going to ferment, and it's going to cause us dis-ease, not at ease. I mean, when you're constipated, it sucks. It's like the worst. And then when you have the best bowel movement, the porcelain snake, some people were calling it, it's just like, yes, celebration, yes? Feels so good. And so this really is, it's like, how can I really keep this channel, mouth to anus, clear? And that's the idea, is to eat on a clear channel. Not when you're full of shit, literally. And when people are full of shit, they're full of it, they're full of shit, they are full of it. And not only that, but you can start to smell them from the upstairs, not just the downstairs. And so then they start having bad breath or halitosis, those kinds of things. So you can tell that there's some channel blocking that's happening. Yes.
What if someone goes very regularly, like
Yeah.
very regularly?
Yeah,
Is
but
it
loose.
like an extreme?
Yeah, there can be.
Yeah.
They say 3 times a day is a lot,
What about
and 4 is too much.
What about just urinating, like flushing like that, like water?
Same.
Through you?
Same.
It's also not good.
There's something you're not absorbing. So if you're not absorbing the water that's coming in you, then yeah. Potentially eliminate the same amount of times that you're eating, or 1 time less. So 2 to 3 times if you're eating 3 times a day. Ayurveda does not suggest a snack necessarily, but of course, depends. It depends, right? And so for snack, you can have it, and then potentially, but Ayurveda does say stick to 3 meals a day.
Just wondering for liquids.
Liquids, yeah.
Just
Yeah, then you need to change the temperature of your water and see if you can absorb it more. So that brings us to a great point, actually. Thanks for the segue, Bianca. Is what happens when you go to a restaurant? What's the first thing they do? They give you ice water. Ta-da! And you're like, great, I'm thirsty. Because most of the time, we're dehydrated. Okay, so now you drink this cold ice water and you're cold on the inside. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about what we need in order to burn some of this food, this dis-ease, this stuff. Actually, yeah, we are. So, in order, let's say, for this food to come in, okay, it's going to come into our body. What needs to happen in order for it to be eliminated properly and daily? So if proper elimination is daily, at least once, what needs to happen here? Metabolism. Digestion, great.
bacteria at work.
Okay, very nice. She said bacteria at work. Good, all of that. So we call that Agni. Agni is the fire. Agni is your digestive fire that burns food, that it transforms experiences, that everything you ingest and intake, this is your internal fire that will change and transform and transmute it into usable, digestible, manageable nourishment to give yourself health, to keep you healthy and strong, to keep you alive, and absorb it properly. Otherwise, it's not being absorbed. You know when you eat corn and you poop corn? It's not absorbed. So, because it's so hard, there's some things that you just can't absorb. So if your poop is coming out hard, like pebbles, you're not absorbing. There's not enough fire for you to absorb. If you're loose, consistently loose, like mud pies or cow pies, you are not absorbing the liquid that is in that poop because the liquid's coming out. So you need to absorb. This will help us absorb what we need to absorb. The thing with Agni, this is so key. Agni is not only digestive fire. On an energetic level, this is courage, passion, desire, motivation, self-esteem, self-worth. Self-identity, and basically your core. your third chakra. Your third chakra, your center, is power. It's your courage, it's your motivation, it's like who you are. And this is developed when you're between like 3 and 7 years old. And so when you start to develop this courage to go out in the world and to be amazing and to like express yourself, expression is another one. You are expressing yourself in a way that when you were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, look at those kids. Weren't you so free to like express yourself in some ways? You're like, hey world, here I am, this is me. Not even a thought of whether it was right or wrong, if it fit or didn't fit. There's nothing about that. Your expression was raw and authentic. And what happened? You expressed yourself, and someone told you? No. Be quiet. Shh. What else? Why are you saying that? You know, bullying, teasing, sorry. Behave. Oof.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Mind your manners.
Yep. You're wrong.
This is socially not accepted.
This is not acceptable. Socially not accepted. We don't do that here. Right? We're going to take you home. You're going to be punished. And when every time you were told or experienced, whoosh, 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 your fire was being put out. It was being squelched. Squelch your fire. Squelch your fire. Squelch your fire. And every time it took you a little bit more to have to get the courage to do it again, to express yourself again, and maybe you never got there. Maybe you never even got the courage to do it again because it turned into fear or shame. And the fear, remember what Kevin talked about this morning? Yeah, went around and back into your kidneys. And kidneys hold the emotion of fear. What do kids do when they're scared? They pee. And that it's too hard for them to control that. So pee goes. Release. Fear, 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 release. So fear and shame. Shame goes down into your colon. When you get shame, you're ashamed or you're feeling constipated, it's like, I'm holding, I'm ashamed, I don't want to, nope. Hold. Holding is constipation. Held in your colon. And so when those two things happen, squelch the fire, squelch the fire, squelch the fire. No matter what you eat, you don't have the fire to digest it. You don't have the fire, the Agni, to digest the experience that's coming at you next. You don't have the fire, the strength, the courage to have the relationship that's coming at you. So this is so key. Agni is the most important part of health. It doesn't matter if you're a Vata Pitta, Pitta Vata, Vata Kapha, Kapha Vata, Vata Pitta Kapha, Kapha Pitta, Kapha Vata. It doesn't matter. If you don't have Agni, you will not have health. And most of us have either too high Agni, too low Agni, or everything in between, erratic Agni. Very few of us have really good, consistent, strong Agni. Just consistent. We call that Sama Agni. Sama Stahiti, Sama Agni. Sama means, I said it this morning, equal. So equal Agni, equal metabolism, equal fire. Sama. S-A-M-A, yep. Sama. So when you have Sama Agni, you have very steady, consistent Agni, that is Swastha. Then you have health. And then you'll be able to burn through, just check, time check, good. You'll be able to burn through the stuff, the clutter, the shit, the clog, right? If you're full of shit, you will be able to burn through it. You will be able to have an experience and be like, I have Sama Agni. I can handle this. I have the courage, I have the self-esteem, I have the self-worth, I have the passion, I have the desire, I have the motivation to move through this. I'm not afraid. There's no fear. There's no shame. I can deal with this. I can move through this. This is part of growth. This is part of life. And I have the fire for it. I have the fire for this food, this beautiful food that I don't have to think about or worry about, or I can't eat this or I can't eat that, okay? It's just I can be in communication with this. Thank you for this food, this beautiful nourishment. It's going to nourish my body, and I trust that it will do that. This is trust. That's the biggest thing, is that in all of this, Agni is trust. And trust yourself, trust the universe, trust the other, and that is where we can really start to cultivate all of these things within this within the element of trust. That's the bigger pillar. If we do not have this, then we're just eating, we're having experiences, we're watching movies that are, create like this like stuckness. We have mental stuckness, we have physical stuckness, and we have emotional stuckness. And the stuckness is called something else. I'm going to erase this, yeah? Everyone's okay? Okay. The stuckness or the stickiness or the toxicity. Stagnance, great. Stuckness, stagnance, good. We call it ama. Ama. Ama is the toxic, morbid waste product of undigested food, undigested experiences, undigested relationships. That's why you say I was in a toxic relationship. Okay? I'm eating toxic food. Ultimately, we don't call it toxic food, but it is. Some food is toxic, with a lot of preservatives or a lot of whatever, or junk food. It's toxic to the body because the body doesn't recognize it. It's like, what is this? It's like, what do you mean you don't recognize this Pop-Tart? Obviously, it's a Pop-Tart. Okay? Or, I don't know, a Snickers bar or a Oreo or whatever, a Cheetos. Okay, so it's like, this is like food that comes in. It's like, okay, I need to, either the body needs to recognize it in order for it to come in and actually tell Agni, okay, hey Agni, it's on speed dial. Agni's on speed dial. Hey, or just text, an automatic text. Okay, food I recognize, drinks I recognize. Okay, and then Agni, okay, I'm here, and I can start to burn it. But if this does not happen, the body's like, I don't recognize it, I don't get it, then Agni's not called. And when there's no Agni, or there's not enough Agni to begin with, then we're just bringing in this experiences, so this can be basically undigested food, experiences, relationships, emotions. All of it can start to build up in your body, ama. And we start to feel lethargic, slow, tired. This is like the qualities of slow, slimy, heavy, dense, stuck, sticky. So when you eat and you get tired after a meal, does that happen to anybody? Yeah. It's your body, yes, it's trying to digest your food. But that may mean that your Agni is low. And you're going to have ama, because we all have ama. If you ate, you have ama. There's undigested food in your body, no matter what. So now it's like, okay, I'm slow. Now how can I stoke my Agni to burn through my lunch so that I can be ready and quite clear before dinner, right? Quite clear before breakfast. I want to eliminate, potentially, before eating breakfast. And that, I mean, that used to happen to me. When I was at my healthiest, I was living in California, I was studying Ayurveda, I was eating amazing Ayurvedic food and Indian food, I was staying with amazing people, and my channel, I would wake, my needing to go to the bathroom woke me up at like around 4:30. And it would just be like clockwork. I'd get up, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd do my whole self-care. I had a 5:45 yoga class, and then I would like do my day. It was just like clockwork. And I felt amazing. And now and then Dr. Lad came and he did a little workshop. He said, okay, he was tongue reading, reading everybody's tongue. And he looked at my tongue, he's like, oh, this is the best tongue I've ever seen. I was like, whoa, you've seen a lot of tongues, Dr. Lad. It's like the biggest compliment for an Ayurvedic practitioner. You have a nice tongue. The best tongue I've ever seen. And so if you turn to your partner or your friend just beside you, stick out your tongue, what do you see? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Stick out your whole tongue. Okay. So if you have a coating on your tongue, a white coating, kapha ama, a yellow coating, pitta ama, a black or brown coating, vata ama. Okay? No coating at all? Maybe no ama. Can someone check out Dan's tongue? Let's check out Dan's tongue. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So, yep.
Say it again, so white tongue was,
Kapha ama. Yeah. So just like slow, yeah, dense.
yellow was,
Yellow's pitta. Yeah. Vata is brown or black. And it's coming out ultimately. This is ama coming out. So what's a great way to get ama off? Tongue scraping. Everybody scrape their tongue? Does anybody scrape their tongue in the morning? Yeah, good. First thing in the morning, wake up. Ideally go to the bathroom, and drink hot water first thing in the morning. So I really encourage you to drink hot water tomorrow morning.
Just hot water, no lemon.
Just hot water. Nothing in it. Lemons are heating. Limes are cooling. There's no lemons in this country for this reason. It's only limes in this country because they're cooling.
Do you have a lot of lime here?
Yeah, but we don't want that because we're not all the same. So just hot water tomorrow morning. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase your your Agni. Yes, good. So what's going to increase your Agni is hot water first thing in the morning. Tongue scraping next. So when you scrape your tongue, you're not only getting rid of ama, but you are massaging all your internal organs because your internal organs are represented on your tongue. And so by massaging it, a few scrapes, it's going to like wake up your organs. It's like, wake up, let's go. You've got some food to digest and assimilate and eliminate. Okay, so now you're doing the work for it. You're starting the work. Another great way, this is what I do, is Kapalabhati, fire breath. So Kapalabhati, and we're going to do it today because I want you to get it for tomorrow. It's really important. This is breath of fire. Kapalabhati is translates into breath of fire. So you're literally creating fire in your belly, literally. And so pumping your belly. So pump, release, pump, release, pump, release, pump, release. Now some of you are a little bit chest high, chest breathing. So you are maybe doing something more like this. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, so that means your stomach's going out when you exhale and your chest is coming in. So notice if you do that. The opposite is what we want. We want to keep your chest quiet and all the work happens down below. Okay? So I'd like you to try that right now because I know that it takes some practice and we just want to simply, you really want to get this breath. This breath could change your life. Even if you did 1 minute of Kapalabhati a day, 1 minute, you could change the way you eliminate, and that will change your life, okay? So you could put one hand on your chest and one hand on below your belly button. So not even high, below your belly button. Yeah, good. So good. So take a deep breath in and fill your belly and push into your hand. And then even you can use your hand to pump. So just do it once. Yeah. You can start slow. And it's a pump and a release. And a pump and a release. Good. Really make it work. A little bit sharper, Ashley, if you can. So notice there is some backwards breathing, and that is so common. So common. We were babies, and I mentioned this earlier. There's a belly breath happening. Babies belly breathe. Yay. We make space for your lungs to breathe as your belly inhales, and you push your belly back in so it pumps the air out of the bottom part of your lungs as you exhale, as the baby exhales. That's functionality. It's efficiency. And somewhere along the line, chest breathing became a thing. Why do you think heart disease is like one of the #1 killers in North America? Okay? We're not breathing efficiently. We're not breathing slow enough. The yogis say you were born with a certain amount of breaths in your lifetime, so how long will it take you to use them up? So if you use them up really quickly, okay. But if you take your time and you breathe the way we were meant to breathe, it would be a different story. It could be a different story. Okay. The other part of creating more Agni is ginger tea. So did anyone take some ginger tea last night? Yeah, good. Ginger tea, so it's fresh ginger, chopped up into slices. You don't need that much, like a thumb of ginger for an entire pot of water. It's a lot, it's enough. So you need this much, a thumb of ginger, cut it up, fresh ginger, put it in the bottom of the pot, boil it for about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and until it changes color, the water color. You can strain it, put it in a thermos. You can sip it all day if you'd like. And that will, especially in winter, but best after a meal, okay? Especially to just help you digest, to get the Agni up and start to burn away the ama. Okay. Whew. What increases ama? Or what squelches Agni, I guess is a better way, like the opposite of all of that. What's the opposite of hot water? Cold ice water. Cold ice water is the worst thing. All you're doing is you're getting to your meal. You're so excited to have this great meal at this restaurant. They get plopped down this ice water. You drink it, and psh, your Agni's gone. Done. You want to have this beautiful meal, you go out for dinner, you order a glass of wine, you drink your glass of wine. I know this is going to kill so many of you. Your Agni is squelched. Alcohol squelches Agni. And not all alcohol, but wine and beer squelches Agni. It's cooling. So like whiskey or like hard liquor is more Agni producing, but it still does squelch Agni, alcohol. Okay, it's Ama producing. Drinking water with food. So someone had said that she had heard, she was like, she was working with an eating disorder, and it was like, okay, well, she was told, she worked with a nutritionist, and she's like, okay, well, you definitely need to drink, you keep your food in your stomach, like half your stomach food and half your stomach water. And then that way you won't be hungry. And I'm just like, and I don't understand that. But according to Ayurveda, it's a third food, a third water, and a third empty. So there's actually room for things to go. If you have half water and then half food and no space, what's happening? Your food's just floating around in water. And there's no fire. There's absolutely no fire. So you're literally squelch your fire, put the food on. Squelch the fire, put your food on. And there's just this like floating mess that is fermenting in your body. And so that's why in mostly in India, they don't actually drink water during their meals. It's like very rare that you get like water. It's usually right before a meal, like 20 minutes before a meal, or 20 minutes after a meal. Yeah? So you can sip a little bit, obviously, of water while you're eating so you don't choke to death. But it's like not it being the predominant source. Yeah, juices are a whole other story. Fruit on its own. And typically, here we offer juice because it's Costa Rica, and we want you to have like that experience. You can put it aside, or you can eat it a little bit after, or you can eat it first. Like, so if you eat your fruit first, or you have your juice first, wait a little bit, maybe, some minutes, 10 minutes or so, and then eat your meal. And then that could be a good spacing. Or you can eat your fruit later. Okay? Or you could just have fruit and no meal. But
What about coffee?
so coffee is not it's neither an Agni squelcher or coffee is acidic, highly acidic. And what it does is it stimulates peristaltic movement. So when you have your coffee, that's why it feels like you have to go, or that's why you go to the bathroom after. It like actually stimulates peristaltic movement, and you're like, whoa, okay, gotta have my coffee because that gets me going to the bathroom. After how long of that kind of stimulus, what happens is your peristaltic muscles get so weak, they don't even know how to ignite on their own. So if you stopped coffee, it's going to take, that's why you get constipated, because your peristaltic muscles are like, oh, well, I need that. And I'm so weak, I don't even know how to stimulate it on my own. I don't have the strength. I haven't had the practice because I've just done it. I just did it because I was told to do it. It was stimulated to do it. Now, to sense it and do it on its own takes a long recalibration. And so coffee is amagenic. It creates a lot of ama in the body. Coffee is pretty tough on your system, on your natural rhythm. Yes.
No.
Coffee is pitta. Yep.
No.
Yeah. And so when I say hot water first thing in the morning, I mean it. Like hot water before your coffee, hot water tea without your tea, coffee without your coffee. Like, it's hot water. So that your peristaltic muscles are like, oh, I need something. And not only that, but it's like this warm bath that you just start to like, your body starts to like, I'm just gonna take a bath in this warm water and I'm gonna open myself up and all my organs are gonna open up and I'm gonna get ready to like do work. Otherwise, cold ice water, it's like, think about that. You just take a cold shower, an ice shower. What do? Right? It's the opposite. It's you cave in. So when you drink ice water, literally, all your organs are like, and your colon especially is constricting. And so when everything's constricting, there's no movement. You can't, it blocks movement, blocks peristaltic movement, blocks flow. So the hot water does the opposite. It creates this bath on the inside that you can start to, I feel ease, I feel flow. And your organs are awake and alive, not,
How much? Like an 8-ounce cup?
Yeah, you can drink a cup, and drink it like it's almost like intentionally, so not like sipping hot water. So make it hot enough to be hot, but not too hot that you cannot drink it all in like quite intentionally, like a cup of water, like Drano almost, because it will act like Drano. It will be like clear the channel. Some people, they'll drink the hot water and literally a minute later they're like, whoa, and they're in the bathroom. Sometimes, some people that happens to.
So is it not good to have hot water at night before bed?
You can. I drink hot water all the time. All the time. I drink it first thing in the morning. I drink it all day long. It's hot here. I drink it in the evening. I drink it after a meal. I drink it before bed. I pee maybe 3 times a day. I never pee at night. Well, never say never. But I very rarely pee at night. I don't wake up to go pee. I wake up when there's dogs barking and I wake up when there's other things, but I don't wake up to have to pee. Yeah. Yes.
I always pee, sorry. Which you probably noticed during the class. I get up like at least 2-3 times. But the water I've been drinking has been like not cold at all. And even if I drink cold water, I still regularly go. And I just don't feel very refreshed when I drink room temperature.
Yep. That's why you have to drink hot water. You will absorb it differently and you won't be thirsty. You drink a lot of water because you're thirsty. Yeah. When you start drinking hot water, your body will absorb it and you will feel hydrated. And when you feel hydrated, you won't feel the need to feel refreshed. I get it. I understand that. But there is water. In Ayurveda, it's not about we don't drink water to feel refreshed. We splash water on our face to feel refreshed, or we I don't know, swim in water to feel refreshed, something like that. But to drink, it's like we want the food and the water that you ingest to be the same temperature as your body temperature. That's the goal. And what's the body temperature?
98.
In Celsius, yeah, 98.6. So food is like actually, so if you're eating like salad, that's how you refresh your body. Like in India, it's like, okay, let's refresh our body. Let's eat fresh, something fresh. I want to feel refreshed. I'll eat salad. Or I want to feel refreshed. I'll eat something that is colder than room temperature or colder than body temperature. But when it's ice cold, it doesn't actually refresh. That's not like that's our idea of refreshing. Are you asking me like what to not go pee? Are you considering that are you thinking that you pee too much, too often?
I do,
Yeah.
but I'm also haven't been, like I usually feel cooled down when I drink cold water. And that's what I always drink.
Yeah.
Cold, like from the fridge cold,
Yes.
always. But I'm particularly hot whilst I'm here. But
Yes.
I have been drinking lukewarm water, like
Yeah.
warm, not lukewarm, but like room temperature.
Yeah.
And I've just been like I always have to. My skin is always hot. Like I'm always
Yeah.
overheating.
Yeah. Because you're not absorbing the water that you're drinking. So the cold water's coming in, but you're not absorbing it. So you're going to be hot. Otherwise, if you were absorbing it and you were hydrated, you wouldn't feel hot. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna try the hot water.
Yeah. And this is it. You are your lab experiment. You are the experiment. This is how Ayurveda came to be. They tried different things and it's like, okay, what is this? What is this? How do I feel? How do I react? How do I, and that's how they came up with this stuff. Yes.
So what about the idea of like, I've always heard like you need to drink like 64 ounces of water a day. And like I've always, I guess, been under the impression like the more you pee, the more hydrated you are. Like if you're not peeing, you're dehydrated.
Right.
So is that
It's a mind shift, isn't it? Mind blasting, we call it.
how much water you drink? It's about the
What are you absorbing?
weight, how much you absorb.
Yeah. So if you look at your friend, stick out your tongue. Notice if they have lines on the sides of their tongues, yeah? Like ridges and lines on the side of their tongue. Malabsorption.
That's what?
Does she have it? Do you have to tell her, Joanne? Yeah.
That's lack of absorption?
Yeah, malabsorption. Yeah.
So how much are you drinking yourself?
I drink, oh gosh, I don't even know.
So a lot,
A lot.
but it's always warm or
Hot.
hot.
You want to feel this or taste this? Don't taste it. It's hot, like
Yeah.
it's steaming. It's from the kettle.
Okay.
Yeah, our kettle's boiling all the time when we live here.
This is my story too. I consume a lot of water,
Yep,
eliminating, and it's,
Yep.
so I'm not retaining.
yep,
I am too, and I feel thirsty.
yep.
Yeah.
Hot water, guys.
So what about the color of your urine?
Yep. So if you're actually absorbing water, it's a great question. What about the color of your urine? If you're absorbing water, you're going to have clear pee. Your pee will be not clear, but it will be. It won't smell. It won't be cloudy. It won't be really dark yellow. It'll be like a light pale yellow, and that's it. And you'll just pee it out. And so you're peeing out, uric acid and urea, and that's it. But there's no ama necessarily attached to it. It's a great way to flush out fear. So as you're saying, like if you're peeing a lot, that doesn't mean you're getting all the water's going through it is going through your kidneys, but it's not being absorbed by your kidneys and your adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands are so important because the kidneys are your battery packs of your being. They are your battery packs of your body. And so they're like, you have those, I don't know, those little Energizer bunnies, and you pull the the back of the Energizer bunny, and they've got battery packs. Literally, those are your battery packs. So you need to recharge these batteries. And recharging them is flushing them out with water, letting yourself really absorb enough water. It's not it's not a cultural thing to drink hot water in North America. But you go to Southeast Asia, they're drinking hot water. It's hot there. You go to India, they drink hot water too. It's very rare they drink cold water.
Even the kids.
Even the kids. Yep. So it's like cups and cups of hot water. And these people it's absorbing. And not only must you flush your kidneys to recharge your batteries, you must also need rest. Your kidneys will recharge with good rest. So water and sleep. And it sounds so simple. And it sounds so benign, I guess is a good way to say it. But it's so impactful if you can sustain it, if you can really do it and make it and covet it and make it sacred. I go to bed at 8:30 every night, except during training. So during training, because we go later, training is always the exception to every rule. But I do take care of myself in other ways. I make sure at lunchtime I'll lay down, or I'll rest a little bit at lunch. Or if Kevin's teaching and I'm not teaching, then I'll rest. Or sometimes I'll be like, if I can't in the evening, like I'm very, like I know I really hold my sleep sacred. If we're not done in the evenings, sometimes I'll go and he finishes, or, you know, I like to stay till the end, but if it's getting too late, I can't do it. It just makes such a huge difference. I wake up at 4:30, and so 8:30 in bed, 4:30 to rise, it's like I feel rested in that way. And I know for me, especially to be able to hold this training, I need that. Sorry, what you said? Yeah.
You answered.
Yeah. Okay, good. And also, I'm Vata. And that's what we're going to get into next. I'm Vata Pitta. And so Vatas really, really, really need rest. You really need rest. All right.
Is it not 81?
Yeah, it could be total. I have a totally old manual.
Okay.
81?
Till 3, Serena?
Yep. Yep. Noelle says 81. And then maybe let's go just even look at 80. And if you have a manual you can share, that would be great. If someone beside you doesn't have it. I don't have the poster. All right. So hot water tomorrow morning, ginger tea this evening after your meal, and then tell me about your porcelain report card. Okay. All right. We have Gunas. So 80, I think? Yep. Okay. Gunas. So Gunas are opposite pairs of qualities. They translate into the word qualities. And we have 10 pairs of opposite qualities. So the first pair is, great, thanks Julia. Heavy and light. Second?
Slow and sharp.
Okay, thank you. Just popcorn them out. Go ahead.
Cold and hot.
Okay. Don't be shy.
Oily and dry. Smooth and rough.
Keep going.
Dense, liquid.
Great.
Soft and hard.
Mm-hmm.
Static and mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Repeat them straight. I just
Static, okay, sorry. Oops. Okay, so heavy and light, slow and sharp, cold and hot, oily and dry, smooth and rough, dense and liquid, soft and hard, static and mobile,
subtle and gross.
subtle and gross,
Cloudy and clear.
subtle, gross, I'm missing, okay. Very small, cloudy and clear. Okay, good. So, these 10 pairs of opposites, the Rishis say, this is it. This is it. In all of the universe, these are everything can fit into these 10 pairs of opposites as qualities. And so now if we look at ourselves in these qualities, we can start to bring in the principles. Like increases like, and the opposites often bring balance. So within these gunas, within these qualities, we can start to see ourselves. Okay? And so Vata, which is which energy?
Air.
Air and
Space.
yes. And what kind of energy?
Movement.
Wind energy, movement energy. Good. So Vata has these qualities. Which qualities does Vata have? Would you say wind energy? Light. Good.
Dry.
Light. Dry.
Mobile.
Mobile. Clear, yes.
Liquid.
Not quite. It's dry. Wind energy is more dry than liquid, yeah? What else? Cold. Wind could be, whoo, cold wind. and rough. So light, cold, dry, rough, mobile, and clear. And there's one more. Yes, subtle. Good. So it can be very subtle, this wind energy. So Vata energy are these things. Vata constitution, you will feel these things. You are these things. Vatas are light, cold, dry, rough, mobile, subtle, clear. And that energy shows up in your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, and everything else, and the way you live your life. So, for example, on page 81, Vatas are physically these things. They are very light in their bodies. They're light in their gait. Like they like to walk fast, and they're, you'd never really hear a Vata coming. Like all of a sudden, they're just there. You're like, whoa, right? It's like, whoa. In like wind, out like wind. Okay. They are very lean, light bones. They have light bones, light muscles. They're lean energy. They don't have a lot of mass to them. They're light-headed. So they have kind of like this, and light-hearted. Light-headed and light-hearted. Vatas don't really cling on to things very much. They let things go. They're kind of like, whatever. They usually forget. So that's why they let things go. But also, it's more like they're not really, there's often of like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. There's not an attachment. Vatas have a hard time attaching to things. And that's the thing. Hard time attaching to a career, to a relationship, to a location. Vatas love to move around. Okay? Here they are movement. We are movement. Vatas are movement. Here, I'm just going into physical traits. Very tall or very short. So Vatas are very erratic. They are either very tall and lean or very short and usually petite. And so irregular. They're not like medium height. They can also have like irregular body stuff. So like maybe their arms or their torso is longer than their legs, or vice versa. Or one leg is longer than the other, or one eye is bigger than the other, or, like very irregular. Okay? That's a Vata trait. Dry skin. Curly or kinky hair. That's like, it's like I said, I've never used a brush in my entire life. I don't know. When I was a kid, I did. I guess maybe because I thought I had to. I don't know. Cold hands and cold feet. So we're very cold. Vatas are very cold. Cold-hearted, too. Vatas can be really like, if their relationship is, if you're like, okay, you have an argument, you're like, meh, cut and dry. See you later. I'm good. Yes? Some Vatas, it's like the relationship's over. It's like, okay, I'm sad, but I know it'll be fine. Move on. Change. And cold in the way that they can be very cold emotionally. So they're not very like inviting necessarily. They're very social. Vatas can be very social, but there's not a lot of they don't get grounded enough to have this deeper connection. They can, but it's not a really common thing for them. Vatas like to be on the surface. Okay. Variable digestion. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, sometimes it's diarrhea, sometimes it's constipation. It's never really regular. Bloating, discomfort, and constipation are common Vata things. So if you are not a Vata person, but you are constipated, your Vata might be high. Okay, that's something to consider. Pain is a Vata trait. So any pain in your body, that's Vata. That's air and space, too much of it, that's causing pain. Light sleepers. Vatas have a really hard time. They can fall asleep they fall asleep really fast, but they don't have they have a hard time staying asleep because they hear things. Vatas take life in through their ears and their skin. And your skin is your largest organ. And so when you start taking life in through your skin, Vatas are very permeable. They take everything in, including other people's stuff, other emotional stuff, other things that come into their bodies, they take in through their skin and their ears. So it's like, and you know, you think about sound. Sound is vibration, and it travels through wind to come into your hearing. So ear stuff, Vatas have a lot of like dry ears and ear, maybe even infections and those kinds of things. It's too much wind energy in the ears. That's why protecting your ears, Vatas, really important. Okay. Vata is responsible for, and we talked about this yesterday, essential motion, movement in the GI tract, peristalsis, we just talked about that. Creativity and imagination, so all the creativity. Vatas are super creative. They have this huge vision for life. They just don't know how to make it happen. They can start it, but usually they get bored or they get distracted or they can't finish it, so then it never actually gets done. And then they change. Something else happens. They go to do something else, start something else. So wind energy is very mobile. It's very moving. And it can take you out of your focus. Vatas tend to, bodily movements, so lots of movements. Vatas talk a lot, move a lot with their talk with their hands, and their eyes move when you're talking to them, and they're like distracted a lot, and they're like squirrel, and then they start talking about something, but then they start talking about something else, and then they kind of make this real roundabout circle, and then they answer your question at the very end. Unless they say, what was I saying? Okay, and it's so endearing. I think it's funny, but it's it's cute, but it's also like, that's where that comes in, oh, that's just your Vata. That's when, as a practitioner, I'm like, okay, watch it. This is what you need to watch. Like increases like, so allow yourself to really bring in what you need for more balance, so more focus. Where can you start to look at someone in the eye and speak to them if your tendency is to look away? Where can you start a sentence and finish a sentence? Where can you get to the point, right? Where can you actually use practices to ground yourself before you move into some project? Where can you find motivation, Agni practice, sustainability to complete a project from beginning to end? And so those are the things that Vata needs to work on. Vatas need structure. I need to do this on Monday at 2. I need to do this at Thursday at 4. This is why I love Asya. It's like, she's like, do this. Just be here at this time and do this. It's like Vatas need that Pitta energy to focus in, narrow in, because it's too easy to get distracted. Vatas are air and space. We have all this space around us and within us. We just think there's so much possibility. Why would I just focus on one thing? Right? Okay. And you can really start to see this in the people that are around you when you start working with people. Okay? And you see, oh, this person's really great at creating the vision, but maybe I need this person to get it done. Right? And then this person to carry it out long term. And those are the kinds of people that you want to create. That's how you can create a really a good, balanced team. Okay. Sensory stimuli, motor responses, quick creative minds, flexibility and creativity. Vatas are super flexible. They're in fact over flexible. So Vatas can be those are the ones that are hyperextended elbows in your classes. They're the ones that are, just fall into the splits on their second pose, go into full wheel, and they're not even warmed up. Those are Vatas. They're super flexible, but what they're doing is relying on their really super flexible airy joints. And that's when they're going to have a very short yoga career. That's what I was talking about earlier today. You do not want to hang out in your joints. And Vatas have really cracky, poppy joints naturally. Perfect, see? On cue, my elbow crack. And so cracky, poppy joints is when it is cracking, the yogis would say that is your bones farting. Have you ever heard that?
What does it smell like?
Yeah, oh, good one. Sama Agni. So bones farting means like I'm getting the air and the space out of my bones, and we need to do that. And Vatas really need to get rid of air and space. It's very important, or air specifically. So grasping concepts, this is like Vata, anytime, this is for anybody, not just Vatas, but like grasping concepts. That's your Vata. It's like, what am I going to learn? Learn it, and Vatas learn really quickly, but we forget really quickly. So Vatas really need to write things down. That's very important. Otherwise, it's gone. It's very fleeting. And it's never again. It's like, well, what was that? And the older you get, the harder it will be to remember. And so it's literally like write things down and write and really harness your pitta to make it happen before it's gone. Dementia, like not, in older age, it is a Vata dis-ease. It's a Vata disease. And it is happening more and more. It's very prevalent in the older population right now. And I really believe there's a lot of factors, but I really believe it's like this lifestyle that has been, we lead a very high Vata lifestyle. A lot of movement, a lot of no focus, a lot of small attention span. Our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Our ability to focus is getting harder and harder and harder. And so this Vata is taking over, and it is wreaking havoc. And then when it goes, increases as we get even older and older, we get into our Vata stage of life, which is after 65, 60-ish, 65, you start getting more and more Vata. And that's when air and space is so prevalent. And so if you continue doing the things, the ice water, the cold, dry, light, rough, keep moving, subtle. Alcohol is subtle. So that's Vata increasing. Coffee is Vata increasing. Clear, you become more and more clear. It's nice to have clarity, but not too clear. Because then you just nothing sticks. Vatas actually need their brains, they need to oil their brains. They need brain oil, like avocado oils and fish oils and those kinds of things to keep your brain functioning and keep the white matter of your brain sticky so that memories stick. Dementia is the planing and the deep-rooted, so you you get stuck in one root and it digs a hole, it digs a rut in the white matter of your brain. I do the same behavior, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. I'm not open to other thoughts, I'm not open to other possibilities, I'm not open to other perspectives. It's the same, and it just digs a rut in your white matter of your brain, and there's nothing else. And when the white matter of your brain is not so thick anymore, it's harder and harder and harder to create new neural pathways. So creating new neural pathways mitigates against dementia. Creating new neural pathways is like yoga nidra. It's somatic exercises, somatic work that we'll talk about. We'll talk about all of these things. And meditation. Okay. Personalities for Vatas, irregular lifestyle. They love different kind of life and don't want to stay in the same job for 25 years. Like to change it up, change careers. They're very alert, restless. They're very active. They walk, talk, think fast, easily fatigued, always take initiative, and they're very lively in conversations. They're quick to answer without thinking. Okay, anyone relate? There's also this, again, like I said, this darting eyes. That's their, it's like they don't have, they're thinking about other things and they're looking around. They're very distracted. Vatas can be. Predominant Vata times are fall and early winter. So fall, autumn. Why? Because it's dry, it's cold, it's starting to get more light and rough, mobile, there's lots of wind in the fall, and it clears out the way for winter. Everything is cleared out. Big winds come, blows the leaves away, and getting ready for winter. And so those are the times where you have to watch your Vata the most. No matter if you're Vata or Pitta, Kapha, you must watch your Vata the closest during these times, fall and winter. And when it gets cold and dry, you notice, it's like, oh, my skin is so dry, my lips are dry, my hair is dry, everything feels dry. And also a lot of scatteredness in fall, or like people are, it's hard to stay grounded, especially if you're Vata. And so doing the practices, and I'll talk about this in a second, to keep your Vata grounded, no matter who you are, but especially if you're a Vata predominant person. Sometimes it's very hard depending on where you live, but the practices that I'm going to share with you, the ones that we just did earlier, but also, so the hot water, definitely. The fire breath, definitely. And then this practice of bringing in oils. So oils on your skin, which is your largest organ, and which is where Vatas bring in their experiences, but also Vata in your mouth, swish it in your mouth. You can, and then spit it out. You can oil your joints specifically, because your joints are what get dry. And the ginger tea, which keeps you like really warm. And neti pot is also a really great practice, not just for Vatas, but for everybody, to put saline solution in one nostril and out the other, which will clear away, keep your sinuses from getting dry and rough, because that can really be irritating, especially in autumn, in fall, and in winter too. And of course you want to get out all the viruses and everything that's just can stay in here and get clogged up in your mucus and sinuses, because that's just the breeding ground for dis-ease, the breeding ground. So clear it out, okay? Hot water for sure. Okay, so it increases with age. The Vata stage of life is 60 years onward, or 65, 60, 65, yeah. And time of day is 2 a.m. to 2 to 6 a.m. and 2 to 6 p.m. So those 2 times of day. And when Vata is at its highest, so 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., guess what's happening?
Sleeping.
Some of us. Awakening. 2 to 6 a.m. is when it's like the awakening. It's dawn. The world is waking up. The animals are waking up. Everything is feeling light and a little bit like lifted and mobile. There's like movement happening from 2 to 6 a.m. You'll notice if you don't get up before 6 a.m., after 6 a.m. is Kapha time. Kapha is the opposite. Dense, heavy, lethargic. So what happens? If you don't get up, if you're up before 6 a.m., do you notice you're like up? I'm like, I should just get up. Well, yes, you should. Because after 6 a.m., if you say, no, I'm going to go back to sleep, you notice how hard it is to get up? It's just like, oh, it's like 7. Oh, my alarm's already going off, right? So getting up before 6 a.m. is actually a great practice, because the universe is helping you. Get up. Get up, begin your day, begin your day, begin your day. And that will that's when you can start to move with the natural circadians of life. Even though it's dark. I know, in winter especially in North America, it's dark at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. It's very dark and it's cold. All of those things, dark and cold. But if you can get up and even just meditate or sit or do yoga or something where movement is important, movement, it can help you get to a place of lightness, then you can do those kinds of practices where you just feel you can support yourself, just sitting. Okay. too much Vata, turn the page. Is that too much? Imbalances? Are those next?
Yes.
Okay, great. So imbalances are when there's too much Vata. Too much. You're fearful, anxious, nervous, ungrounded, unstable, confused. You worry when you're under stress. You're easily fatigued and confused about what you did wrong. Vatas blame themselves. Vatas tend to be like, oh, what happened? What did I do? What did I do? This is like so, I'm not even sure what that is actually about what Vatas are. Somehow they just feel like they did something to cause someone else's discomfort. They're not very good planners if there's too much Vata. You have less willpower, less confidence, less boldness than other types. You're impulsive or compulsive. You have an erratic mind, lifestyle, and career choices, dry skin and hair, flatulence and constipation, conditions in the colon, brain, ears, bones, joints, skins, thighs. Like your whole body, pretty much. So Vata is very, very, and think about that. Vata gets higher as you age. So in older age, you get these conditions. They show up. Colon, ears, bones, brain, joints, skin. And so when you start getting these discomforts and diseases, if that's a Vata thing, then know that you need to control that, bring that back into balance. Pneumonia, shortness of breath, arthritis or aching joints, twitches, nervous disorders, any nervous disorder. So Parkinson's, that's a nervous disorder. Dementia is a nervous disorder. What else? Nervous disorders. MS, fibromyalgia, those chronic fatigue, those kinds of things. So nervous disorders. Ringing in the ears, tinnitus, that's a Vata disorder, disease. Insomnia, so difficulty staying asleep. Amenorrhea, so that means no menstruation or very scanty menstruation. Cold hands and feet, like really cold hands and feet. That's like a constant thing. That is a Vata imbalance. Okay, so what causes this? Frantic travel, especially plane travel. It's very interesting. Planes, why? They're everything. Air, space, they're light, they're dry, they're cold, they're mobile, okay? They're rough, good. And I have a story for that. Exposure to cold, dry, and raw foods and environments. So cold environments, dry environments, rough environments, and that could be relationships. And, that is an environment that could be really increasing to Vata. Salad is cold, raw food. Who loves salads? The Vatas. The Vragins are Vatas, more often than not. They're already very lean and they're like, okay, I'm going to be a Vragin, I'm going to eat raw food. That's not medicine for a Vata. Vatas need warm, unctuous, cooked food. Vatas don't necessarily have the Agni, the fire, to burn through the raw food. It just may not happen for them. And that's where like increases like. Okay? So that's where bringing in the opposites. So if they're already light, dry, rough, cold, and the salad is light, dry, rough, and cold, like increases like. You're going to be more constipated, more bloated, more this, more mobile, more fearful than ever before. Continuous stimulation and interruption. When you're continually interrupted with like anything and loud noises, stimuli, that is Vata producing. So if you are in an environment or a job where you're constantly being interrupted or you can't focus, like increases like. Your Vata is up, up, up. Even though, and Vatas cannot, you all met Andara? Yes? and very, like, she's just like, she's got so much going, you didn't even see her at her busiest. You know, when she's at her busiest, she's like, previous managers, Vata managers, they cannot handle it. It's like serious overwhelm. Vatas get overwhelmed very easily because they are already so distracted, and then keeping up with all the other interruptions and noises doesn't work. Vatas, it doesn't, it's imbalanced, completely imbalanced. Vata teachers, like elementary school teachers, it doesn't work. If they're constantly interrupted and there's all this lot, they teach like really unruly young kids, it's just like, Vatas get very like scared, and they're fearful. They're Vata teachers. They're like, no, okay, and then they get like the rules become super rigid, and like the kids are like, you know, and it becomes that. I've seen that a lot, where it's like you start to impose your own fears onto that, onto your environment. So for me, I remember really my classroom. I did this instinctually. I didn't really know a lot about Ayurveda back then, but I would turn off my lights. Like we had the fluorescent lights. I taught middle school, so it was a little bit different. But I turned off the lights in the class. I had like a different lamp. I would, sometimes I'd play music, and and then all the kids, they'd be like, they'd come into the classroom, and they're just like, oh, and then they'd like sit down, and like they knew their routine. They knew what they had to do. There was a structure. It's like, okay, when you come in, do this, this, this. And it was just like, I didn't have to say anything. It just like became this thing and this structure. And kids really appreciated it. I didn't have a lot of like issues in my classroom because it was sort of like this intuitive knowing of like, okay, you're being overstimulated, just distracted, all of this stuff. And like, okay, so where can I create an environment where you feel not stimulated, calm, warm, relaxed, where you can just like be here. And it was, I think I did it a lot for me, a lot of the time, but also I saw the result. Sugar, caffeine, iced drinks, and ice cream. Vata producing. So Vatas, stay away from the ice drinks, the smoothies, the ice cream, the cold foods, the sugary stuff, and definitely coffee. Vatas and coffee, or caffeine drinks, like what are those, energy drinks, or like soda pop, any of that stuff. It's carbonated drinks, really super Vata increasing. Okay. Pollution, air conditioning, wind, heavy traffic, stress, and multitasking. So this is like life in a lot of ways. And so if you are a Vata, it's like, where can you really start to put some parameters, some boundaries into the way you live? And if you can really prioritize self-care in that, it could change. And just like I'm talking literally bookends of the day, hot water in the morning, ginger tea after dinner, I don't know, something, oiling yourself and taking a bath at night. Those three things, duk, 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 duk. And if you can just do those three things, you can create some kind of container of self-care, and you can help yourself manage the rest. If you're I know so many Vatas that are flight attendants. It's like, wow, that's the wrong job. But you know why? They love it. I'm in a different country tomorrow. The next day, I get to go here. I get to meet all these people. I get to move all around, and it's great because their personalities, they have a propensity for that, and they love that. But it's not the greatest for their aging. Okay, we want to prevent dis-ease. That's what Ayurveda does. Promote longevity, but in a sustainable way, and be in this way of healthy balance, or at least coming back to a place of balance as long as you can. So what do? Keep warm, avoid drafts, stay calm, focused, avoid multitasking, rest and avoid expending energy all at once. Avoid cold, frozen, raw foods. Eat warm foods and spices. Maintain a regular routine. And so the practices, and we'll talk about all the Vata practices, the yoga practices. For yoga practices, Vatas love what? They love what kind of yoga? Vinyasa flow. They're like, ooh, because it's moving and it's changing and it's different and it's creative and it's all of the things that they are, but it's not what they need. Vatas need structure, warmth, and like Vatas are pretty good with like an Ashtanga practice or a Bikram practice, something like really structured. They do the same thing every day. That is kind of a great practice for Vatas. They could also really benefit from a restorative practice, something where they're just static and not moving, and they put blankets on them that are soft. And oh yeah, they're also hard. Vata is hard. Yeah, where's hard? Okay, yeah. So, it's like they don't need hard anything. It's just like, okay, soft, the heavy blankets, heavy sandbags even. You put a sandbag on a Vata's pelvis, they're out. They're just like, it's like and we're going to talk about it later on, but that is like the thing for Vatas. Because that's where Vata lives. It's in your pelvis, the seat of your Vata. What people don't know, they don't know. What people know, what you know now, you can potentially change. I'm sitting on a plane beside an old couple. I'm going to be 4 minutes over. An old lady, so great, old couple. I look at her. I'm on the aisle seat. She's in the middle. Her husband's in the window seat. So she's like got these really dry nails, like dry kind of cracked nails, dry cuticles, like wrinkles, and she couldn't have been that. I think she looked older than she was. Really dry, stringy white hair, and she's kind of just like a little bit. And I wasn't really talking to her husband. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. No judgment. So sitting there. And she kind of fiddles with the air. So I'm like, oh, she must want it off because it was like blowing on her. So I went to turn it off and she's like, no. Turn it up. And I was like, oh, okay. So I turn up the air. And so this air is like, psh, like really hard and like blowing in her face. So she's like, shh. So we take off and we're take off. She starts rummaging around in her bag and she pulls out this Ziploc bag and it's got celery in it. So she picks out the celery, she's like, and she hands it to her husband. He's like, no, don't touch the stuff, And she's chewing this real, like the air is like, psh, and she's like, crunching on this dry, rough, cold celery stick. And okay, and then, of course they come with the drinks and I'm like, okay. They ask, what does she want? A Diet Coke with extra ice. And I'm like, how about a hot water? so Diet Coke, okay, extra ice. She got this other bottle of cup of ice, okay, and like pretzels or cookies. Pretzels come her way. They're dry. They're rough. She's like, cold, dry, rough, mobile. Like, and I literally like just put in my earphones. And I had to look away. And so here's all these things that she thinks she's doing right. She thinks she's doing these things right. She thinks she's being healthy. I'm going to eat celery and I'm going to have a Diet Coke and I'm going to, all these things. But what is medicine for one person is poison for another. And so here she is increasing her Vata in her time of Vata life. And I'd imagine she's going to have a lot of problems, some Vata imbalances going on. I don't know how many days it took her to poop when she landed, but probably a few. Okay, so all I wanted was like, give her some hot water, pour a bucket of oil on her, and just like, massage her. Okay, so all of that to say, we can all experience Vata, but now when you see it, when you feel it in you, when you see it in the people that you know, when you see it in yourself, when you feel it in yourself, play with this. Become your own experiment. Drink the hot water. Do that at night. Drink the ginger tea. See what happens. See if you can start to focus on your daily report card. That's one. And your Agni. And if you can just start there. And then see how it goes. Okay? Tomorrow's Pitta and Kapha. And we will keep the conversation rolling. All right. Thank you. The awkward clap continues. Okay. Thank you.